What's going on, everybody? It's Tuesday night. It's 10 o'clock Central Time. We've got UFC Jacksonville, which is also known as UFC on ABC 5, which is going to be headlined by Josh Emmett versus Ilia Topuria. We got 14 fights to break down on this card, just like we had 14 fights to break down on last week's card. We lost a couple of those fights last week. Hopefully all 14 of these fights stay on this card because this is a really fun card. It's just a fight night card. You know, it's not a pay-per-view, but because it's in Jacksonville, because they're traveling, because it's in, a card that they're trying to sell on ABC and they're trying to get a lot of viewers for, they have definitely stacked this thing from top to bottom with really exciting fighters, some great stylistic matchups. And there's definitely, like every week where there's 14 fights, you're going to find some spots that stick out. You're going to find some underdogs that you feel like got about at least a 50% chance to win the fight. And that's exactly what's happening for me this week. I'm fired up to break down this card with all of you guys. First of all, let's talk about last week. And I will share my screen with you. And let's see here. Last week. Okay. We were down 1.25 units last week. And let's see here. We cashed on Carlos Hernandez versus Dennis Bondar at plus 110 for 1 unit, but we lost on the Nick Moda money line versus Manuel Torres 1 unit. So we're up 0.1 units on straight bets. And then the under 1.5 rounds in Moda versus Torres cashed for 1 unit. The Jared Cannonier by decision bet for a half unit at plus 300 cashed. So those were good bets. The under 2.5 rounds in Fernandez versus Bleda did not work out. That was a loss of 1 unit. The Fernandez by KO at plus 1,400 did not work out for 1/10 of a unit. The Almeida scorecards, no action at plus 110. Obviously, that didn't work out. Pat Sabatini looked amazing in that fight. And then I lost a 1/4 unit on Almeida to win by knockout. Also lost 1.5 units on the Christian Leroy Duncan money line. That was supposed to be a parlay with Hani Barcelos. The Barcelos fight got called off. So I wound up with a Christian Leroy Duncan straight bet for 1.5 units. That was bad. It was a horrible performance by Duncan. He showed zero fight IQ, zero ability to be able to make in-fight adjustments and take advantage of his length. He didn't throw jabs. He didn't really throw teep kicks. He instead tried to land about 73 spinning hook kicks that got nowhere near Petrosian and just got outworked, outlanded. And Petrosian threw the meat and potatoes techniques that actually work. And Christian Duncan tried a bunch of Michael Venom Page shit, made himself look like a complete moron out there. But Duncan's still very young, very long, experienced as an amateur. I'm sure he's going to get better. I think that he's going to have better performances than that going forward. But that was an absolutely piss poor performance, and it was a piss poor play for me to lay juice on somebody that makes those bad decisions in a fight. So definitely Christian Leroy Duncan on the horseshit fight IQ list until further notice. So down 1.25 units, which sucks because we were up 4.11 units the week before that. So we sandwiched this great performance here with 2 shit losing performances. So we got to get back now into the winning column here. And we've got some bets that I've already made, and we will talk about those once we're done breaking down all 14 of these fights. As you can see underneath the screen, that is the address to my Patreon. That is the absolute best way to support me and support my work so that I continue to be able to put out this free work here on YouTube for you guys to benefit from. All the stats that you see here, the new advanced stats template with the heat map where you have color-coded stats to show whether somebody is above or below the average for the division, so we can determine pace, we can determine accuracy, we can determine all kinds of different things and find out whether certain fighters are above, below, or right on the average in those categories. So this is a really cool tool available for only $10 a month. And then for $20 a month, we've got this prop template here with, amazing information. You have the divisional benchmarks for fight doesn't go to decision, under 2.5 rounds, under 1.5 rounds, fight doesn't start round 3, fight doesn't start round 2, and then all the opposite over bets. And with those, benchmarks, and with all of these betting lines being turned into implied probabilities, and with both fighters' UFC performances, you can find underpriced lines, overpriced lines. And if you're somebody that does a lot of over-under betting, this prop template, which is featured on the show that we do on the MMA Engine YouTube channel, Propability, you can find the link to that show in the description of this video. This is a great tool to find value in those betting markets using the data. And then you can also add your stylistic reads to this to not only find out if the bets that you're already thinking of betting over or under are overpriced, underpriced, or fairly priced, but also to find other bets that maybe you weren't even thinking of. But when you see all the betting lines filled in here, you start to say, oh, wow, I didn't really think that would be a good bet, but the prop template is showing me that that's underpriced. And not only that, my stylistic read tends to agree with that particular bet. So these are the best ways to support my work. And I'd like to thank everybody that joined the Patreon over the last couple of weeks. It's great to have all of you on board. And I'd like to give a special thanks to everybody that is already on the Patreon, that's been with me the whole time, been supporting my work the whole time. You're the reason I come here to YouTube every week, because it allows me to be able to not only continue to support you guys with these statistics and help you do better decision making in your gambling lives here, especially on the UFC, but also that this allows me to be able to do this full time, put more work into this, and give even more and better analysis for you guys here on YouTube. So I appreciate anybody that considers to join that Patreon. But even if you don't join the Patreon, hit the thumbs up, hit the subscribe, leave me a comment down below. It's always great to talk with you guys, to engage with you guys here and talk these fights, find ways to stack cash tickets like flapjacks here. Let's see what's going on with you guys in the chat here today. We have got my guy Dixon in the room saying, "Dear Prophet Weezy, it's with great heaviness that I come to thee tonight. After an exhilarating night of Bellator and PFL betting, I was up 3 units, but fell into the trap of the Italian temptation. Something possessed me late at night to commit an atrocity I never want to remember after this, but I need closure. I put 3 units on the monster among men that goes by the name Marvin Vettori. I know that nobody cares, but if there's someone that I know that understands, it's my Uncle Weezy. Thank you for hearing me out, Prophet. I feel better already, and I'm ready to move on from the Italian nightmare." It was kind of frustrating for Vettori bettors, that Cannonier survived that onslaught in the first round because Vettori was landing huge shots. But then he didn't really wrestle after that. And there were points where Jared was just kicking his ass on the feet. And I was like, Marvin, now might be the time to wrestle, but he never pulled it out. I personally cashed on Cannonier by decision, but that was really a pure numbers play for me. I love the fact that I got him, where they said only half of his win condition was by decision, when Marvin Vettori's durability was put on Front Street again, and he showed why he's one of the most durable guys to ever get in the UFC octagon. It's almost impossible to knock that dude out. I think Jared Cannonier landed either 80 or 90 significant strikes just in the second round, and Vettori was still there and still went another 15 minutes after the drubbing he took in the second round. So, I was lucky that fight, that Vettori's durability held up once again, and I wound up cashing that Cannonier by decision bet. We got Victor De Jesus is in the room saying, "Oh, yes, what's up, Weezy in chat? Happy Trevor Peak Fight Week." There's nothing better than Trevor Peak Fight Week. That dude is so exciting. And at Dixon, I'm so sorry about your loss, brother. The good news is that you can make the 3 units back this week. It is Trevor Peak Fight Week after all. And we got Victor De Jesus saying, "Ladies and gents, don't forget to hit that like on the way in." Appreciate you, Victor. Thank you so much for saying that. And yeah, hit that like button. It's free and it's easy to do. And we got the Jewish bettor in the room, and he is saying that he's Jewish. Dude, I knew it, man. I knew that dude was Jewish. I knew it. I don't want to be a dick now that he just let the cat out of the bag and say I knew it all along, but I knew it all along. So yeah, but thank you for joining us, Jewish Better. I guested with the Jewish Better on Liam's show a couple weeks back, and we had a lot of fun breaking down the fights. Eric D is in the room saying, "Hey guys, what's up, Eric D?" We've got Justin J in the room saying, "Oi, howdy, Uncle Weezy. What's up, chat? Good to catch a live show. Looking forward to this card. I'm looking forward to this card too. It's fantastic." And we got the Paragon of Virtue, my guy Lou Betya in the room saying, "Oh, it's only 32 days until Johnny Parsons' debut, and it's only like 11 days or however long it takes for them to get the lines out until I max bet Danny Roberts against this talentless fraud, Johnny Parsons. But he does have a great mullet. Hopefully he brings that mullet back to the cage. But yeah, 32 days till Johnny Parsons' debut. Let's hope he doesn't get hurt again, man. But good to see you hanging out in here, Lou Betcha, fellow MMA engine content creator. And we got Nigel Lee in the room saying, "Oi," or as we say in Jamaica, "Awaguan." What's up, Nigel? Good to see you hanging out in here, my man. We got Subhuman Gaucho saying, "Oi." Evening, fellas. What's up, dude? Sneerius saying, "Oi." And we've got Fender Jazz saying, "Good day from Ottawa, Canada." Weezy, Canada stand up. They were 6-0 a couple weeks ago. That was a hell of a card. And so it is good to have Fender Jazz checking in from Canada today. We got J-Bone saying, "Let's go, Weezy." We got Corey Mann saying, "Get those bookies. Let's go." We got Matt Campbell in the room saying, "Weezy, I hit a parlay to end up even. Great Great weekend in Vegas. Thanks for the fun with the greasy four-legger." Yeah, we had fun up until that Christian Leroy Duncan line. Yeah, that was it was so bad. That was such a bad play by me, man. And Usman saying, "Weezy, I got tricked into the CLD too. I hope it wasn't me that put you over the line there to get that bet in, man, because that was a lousy call by me, dude." Sigma Trillionaire Gus saying, "Weezy, I got robbed of my Hernandez inside the distance. They put the winnings in my account and ran my pockets overnight. Damn vultures." Yeah, dude, that was a wild one. It was definitely a headbutt, but it was, it was so close to being a knockout. That was a rough one to lose. And I picked him to win by third round knockout, but I didn't bet it. Those that did bet it, man, rest in peace to that ticket, because that was like, the roller coaster where, you think you just cashed a massive bet and then you find out, nah, man, it was a headbutt and they're taking it away from you. TBB pick saying, "Let's go, boys. Smash last card. Let's hit it again. Let's go, man." We got AJ Worth saying, "A leader of men." What's up, AJ? How you doing, man? TBB saying, "That's tough, Dixon." Yeah, man. Sicky does MMA saying, "Been a while since I last turned in, but I'm here. Let's go." Thanks for hanging out with us, Sicky. We got TBB saying, "Vettori been broken since Bobby Knuckles." Yeah, it's hard to come back after a Bobby Knuckles fight. And Matt saying, "Don't feel bad. I would have been up 3 units had Marvin finished that in the first." Yeah, bummer. On to the next for sure, man. AJ saying, "Fight seemed rigged. All the public money was on Vettori. Why the hell didn't he wrestle?" That's a very good question, man. I have no idea why he didn't wrestle. It was a dumb game plan. That wasn't rigged. Casuals jumping on Vettori. That's what that was. The Vettori line, or the Cannonier line, moved a lot. But, I thought Vettori had more ways to win that fight, but he just didn't choose to wrestle. M.A. Laren saying, "Oi, Unk, rest of them all. Any lockish bets, not necessarily money lines, for an early-ish weak tier parlay with Topuria and Taira." Topuria, Taira. Maybe the under 1.5 rounds in the peak fight, but right now, it's too early to lay juice, especially with a lot of the line movement we've been seeing lately. Thank you for your work. Haven't been able to catch it live in a minute. Well, thank you for hanging out with us, my man. We got TBB saying, "We love you, Senior Weezer." What's up, dude? To AJ saying, "Don't worry, Dixon. All you need to do is hammer Weezy's ass shaving the week bet to bounce back." Agreed. And I got a good one for this week. And we've got Dirty Riverfish. Oh, God. Sneerius saying, "I hit Modestus by decision, parlayed with Blada by decision." Torres inside the distance, nice. And the main event to go to decision was a good night. Yeah, Modestus by decision. I think that that should have been Pauga that won that fight. It was fairly close, but Pauga definitely won the second round. And Torres, man, that elbow was nasty. Poor Nick Moda, because that elbow was absolutely a face smasher. I hope that everything is okay in that general area there for Moda, because that was one of the nastiest elbows I've ever seen. Oi, what's up, Unk? In chat says Antonio Esparza. True saying Danny Roberts. Need to look at that again. LOL. Yeah, dude, no. I mean, I'm just talking about how bad Johnny Parsons is. That dude is, I mean, he lost to Solomon Renfro, and they somehow gave him a win on that Contender Series fight. Dude, if you're losing to Solomon Renfro and almost getting finished by him, you don't belong in the UFC. And Danny Roberts is going to make quick work of that bum Johnny Parsons. And Uncle Weezy's Wagawan was everything wanted and needed. Appreciate you, Jewish Better. Nigel Lee saying Jewish Better definitely made my day. We got TBV Pig saying Petrosian decision or CLD KO was a smash spot. Yeah, I thought CLD was going to knock him out, but he fought like a complete moron. What can you do, though? Maybe he's still young. He'll learn from it. Would have swore he had dreads and a joint in his mouth. MMA Propaholic is in the room saying, Weezy, dude, you know that this guy's a diehard because he has to get up for like work at like 4:30 in the morning. So you know it's late for him, man. Good to see you hanging out in here, brother. We got True saying dudes fall in love with their stand-up and just stop wrestling. It happens to a lot of people. I even remember the famous I was after the Jai Herbert fight that Renato Moicano said, I fell in love with the box, and he's like, I just got to go back to being a grappler because that's what he's really good at. And Moicano was just standing and banging with people he absolutely shouldn't have been doing that with. And when he started going back to the wrestling is when we've seen Moicano start to string together some wins. And we've got Topuria is not a smash spot. No, dude, that's a wide line. 100% think Cannonier is on something. What is it? The body? And not a chance, mate, says Richard. I don't know, man. Bragging on Bukowski's win. Not good. Oh, I mean, it was a win. A win's a win, dude. At least it's nice because if the judges, go your way for once, it's kind of nice to be like, hey, one went my way, dude, We got Rendog saying, hey, Uncle Weezy, Google's being a bitch, won't let me send a dono. I'll head on over to the Patreon later. Appreciate all the hard work last week and every week. Oh, he says Rendog, dude, thank you so much, man. Totally appreciate that, brother. And yeah, I do have the Cash App link in the description of this video. If you ever want to send money via Cash App, that is the best way to do it without question. But appreciate anybody that goes to the Patreon, sends a donation. It means so much. It really helps me continue to do this and put as much time into this as I do every week. I just want to show you something real quick here. These are my notes for the show. There are 21 pages of notes, So on the day that I do just the tip, I wake up at around 9 or 10 and I write descriptions of every single fight. I write advantages for each fighter. I write a summary. I look at stylistic things. This is how much work goes into this show, you guys. I take this very, very seriously, and I want to provide the best possible analysis, that I can every single week, and not just, not just the numbers, not just the data, not just all the stats, but I have to watch a ton of tape and take notes on that tape and, look at previous lines, look at stats, try to find the angles, try to find the spots that help us stack cash tickets like Flapjack. So whenever anybody supports the show, Ramdog, it means a ton to me. And I appreciate each and every one of you guys. And we got TJB saying LMAO cocaine dealers love us. One sniff and we're back. Yes. Antonio saying whose performance was worse, CLD or William Knight? Oh, William Knight. It was definitely William Knight. look, CLD's super talented, right? I don't know what he was doing in there, you know what I mean? Like, but hopefully he learns from it. He's still young. He can absolutely get better. He can improve on that. And he's a very dynamic, long, flashy striker. He just needs to do more meat and potatoes shit, you know, because then once the jab starts landing, once the teep kick starts landing, then the spinning hook kick will land. But when you can't throw that technique 20 times in a row, you know, then nobody like Petrosian's going to get caught. He's a very experienced, very defensively responsible kickboxer. You don't throw nasty techniques like that trying they're going to land. It's the Renfro era, says TBV Picks. We got Jonathan Maltai saying, yo, happy to catch you tonight live. Thank you for being in here, Jonathan. Thank you for hanging out with us. We got J Bone saying 4:30 for you, prop. Me too. I should be slumped right now. Jared is Captain EPO. Is that what it is, man? I don't know, man. I don't have any evidence of that. Money Moicano has a YouTube channel now, and he's hilarious, man. I saw that, dude. I was writing some stuff up, but I saw he was live the other day. Y'all, Jared ain't on shit, y'all. Y'all gotta calm down. CLD can't box, which is bizarre. Yeah, I know, man. And prayers up for Angry Marvin, says Liam Smith. All right, you guys, we got a ton of work to do, you guys. So let's get right into it here. And we're going to start with the very first fight of the night. Friend of the show, Cody Brundage, going up against Sedriques Dumas. Okay, so first let's talk about Cody Brundage's advantages. Let me get a sip of this coffee. We're going to be up late tonight, you guys. We've got 14 fights to break down here, about 21 pages of notes to read. So strap it down. We got money to make. We got fights to break down. All right, Cody Brundage has the overall and the UFC experience advantages here. He's got 4 more professional fights. He's got 40 more minutes in the pro cage, 1.5 more years as a professional fighter. And he also has the UFC experience advantage as he's got 4 more fights and 24 more minutes in the octagon compared to Dumas. And his striking has been looking a lot sharper of late. He throws that overhand right with conviction. He's training with guys like Dustin Jacoby, Josh Friend, Daly, and he used to work with Anthony Smith. So that high-level team over at Factory X is rounding out his striking game. Cody's distance striking differential is positive 1.71. He's got 2 UFC knockdowns while absorbing 0, and he has a 68.5% distance striking defense. So he's definitely done a solid job at distance striking range thus far in the UFC. But it's only been 27%, as we can see right here, of his UFC cage time. So he spends a very low percentage of his time at distance striking range and a lot more time in control time positions. And Cody's a good wrestler. He's a 2-time nationals qualifier at Newberry University. He relies on his wrestling to win minutes and moments. Outside of the Maximov fight that he took on short notice, he's gotten the takedowns and won the control time positions. And Cody has fought and beaten the better level of competition in comparison to SD Dumas here. Now, SD is 1.5 years younger, and he's going to be the bigger dude here. He's a lot bigger, actually. Very good frame for the middleweight weight class here. He's 2 inches taller than Cody, and he's got a 7-inch reach advantage. Sedriques is the better athlete, and his kicks are fantastic. He throws them to all targets. They're fast, unpredictable, and precise. He's got serious power and explosiveness in everything he does on the feet. He's really flexible. So I would say he's probably the better moment winner in this fight. This kid's athleticism makes him a really good scrambler and an opportunistic submission grappler as well. Cody is awful off of his back. So if SD can get on top here, he will be in much better shape than he will be anywhere else in the fight. And if Cody doesn't pressure him and he gives SD space, he should be able to operate pretty well on the feet here because, like I say, this guy is long for the weight class. His kicks are fast, and they're powerful as well. So I think it's going to be important for Cody to push a pace, because that's something that, training at elevation, weaponizing your cardio, that's always a good, avenue to take if you have the kind of cardio to push that pace. So it's going to work. That's going to be strange to see now because we don't know how Cody's going to look. Cody's the one taking this fight on short notice here. And this is going to be kind of like a local fight here for Dumas because he's from Pensacola, Florida. This fight's in Jacksonville. So he's going to be pretty close to home here. And it's Brundage that's taking the fight on short notice. So I'm really not sure what to think here. We've never seen Cody as this big of a favorite before. Dumas looked like he flat out quit against Josh Friend, and that was an awful look. Prior to that, Dumas always looked calm and patient, yet seemed to find moments whenever they presented themselves. And if Cody can't get SD down and keep him there, I feel as if Dumas has the better moment-winning potential on the feet, especially if Cody does not pressure. I think Cody wins this fight. He can get a great advice from his teammate Josh Friend, who should tell Cody to pressure SD, wrestle him, make sure he doesn't wind up on his back. I like the under 1.5 here stylistically because I see these guys as both being dangerous, but I'm going to be calling Cody Brundage to win this fight by late second round submission. The thing is that we can count on Cody to wrestle, right? So if we can count on Cody to wrestle, I believe that is the style of game plan that's going to make SD quit like he did last time. And that's exactly what happened. I mean, that was such a fast tap. And you could tell when SD realized that, he wasn't going to be able to get Friend off of him and Friend got to his back real quick after he got SD down. And it was over so quickly after that. Dumas did not defend either takedown and was controlled over 55% of the fight, as we can see right there. But we also have to be aware, that Sedriques put on a literally flawless performance against Matek Penash on Dana White's Contender Series. And all the tape before that, you see a very dynamic athlete with great kicks. He showed some decent wrestling and scrambling in the Aaron Highbaugh fight. So I think people are very low on Dumas right now, and I think that there's a lot of recency bias in this line. But I still think that Cody's game plan of wrestling, grappling, trying to get the Sedriques' back, if it works in the first round, and if it starts to work in the second round, and he gets Sedriques down, and isn't badly hurt from anything that Sedriques has landed, I think that's when Sedriques taps out and quits. So Cody Brundage, second round submission, is the pick for this fight. And as always, we're going to do our picks right here on the show. War Cody Brundage, friend of the show, great guy. Big ups to him and his wife and his daughter Kingsley. Wishing this dude nothing but the best. He seems like a really great guy. And if he can go into Sedriques Dumas's backyard and get a win on Saturday, get him up to 3-3 in the UFC, it'd be a big win for Cody Brundage. And I'm definitely rooting for him. And I'm picking him to win this fight by second round submission. See what you guys are saying in the chat. We got Daz Dillinger up in the room. What's up, dude? Good to see you hanging out here. We got Richard saying totally normal to get better cardio at 39. Nigel Lee saying, damn, Weezy, them notes look like my college thesis. Last time I wrote that much, I was in a police station trying to keep my ass out of jail. You're a national treasure, my guy. I appreciate you, man. Oi, I'll be in Jayville for the card this week. Anyone else going, says Nacho Buddy Chief. True saying not even breathing hard after landing 80-plus shots. Amazing. Yes, that is true. Dumas by KO or to get murdered could go either way. Brundage fight under 2.5. I like that one. True. We got XA Money saying, oi, what's up, XA? We got Daz saying Cody gets a takedown and secures a sub if he's smart. Sup says Daz Dillinger, what's up, dude? Dumbass is still struggling to put it together. Athletic guy who's definitely not UFC level. We'll see, man. We'll see. We got True saying head control time other than Vieira slicing through him like marshmallow. Yeah, man. Vieira's a next level grappler. That's for sure. Hood Wolf getting slumped here if you don't KO him quick. Under 2 rounds, Brundage short notice. I think that's a good call, True. 3 units on the lanky mofo. Let's go. He got him at plus 150. Dumbass KO round 1 for a hedge. Surely it's his only chance. And best spot is KO rather than money line, says TBB. Cody pressure, push him against the cage, take him down, make us money. And Cody should fight intelligently and break Hood Wolf. And Sedriques dumbass got 5M to win this fight. All right, you guys, let's move on to the next fight here, which is going to be Tatsuro Taira, minus 235, going up against Kleydson Rodrigues at plus 200. The fight doesn't go to decision at minus 165 for this fight. So let's get these stats up here on the screen for you guys. And let's first start talking about this uber prospect, Tatsuro Taira. So Taira's huge for the weight class. He's got nice measurables advantages here. He's over 4 years younger than Kleydson. He's 1 inch taller, and he's got a 3-inch reach advantage. He's been way more active as a pro as Tatsuro. He's got 13 pro fights in a 5-year pro career, while Kleydson only has 10 fights in 8 years. 3 more fights as a pro for Tatsuro, and 1 more UFC fight, 12 more minutes in the UFC octagon. All advantages for Tatsuro there. Taira's grappling is next level. He gets takedowns, gets the dominant positions, and he has a knack for getting to the back. Over 75% of Taira's cage time is spent in control time positions, and he's winning almost 80%, as we can see right here. 79.33% of those control time positions. He's finished 2 of his 3 UFC wins by way of submission, and he's amassed almost 60% control time on the aggregate thus far in the octagon. There's a common opponent in CJ Vergara. Kleydson had a close fight with CJ, while Tatsuro absolutely destroyed him. The Kleydson Rodrigues advantages. Kleydson has nice striking. In a small sample size at the UFC level, Kleydson has a positive 3.92 distance striking differential with almost 55% accuracy. He's got 17.23 distance strike attempts per minute. That's 6.61 below or above average output for the division. So that's a lot of output there for Kleydson Rodrigues. Taira is good on the ground, but if Kleydson can keep this fight standing, he's going to give himself his best chance to win. He has a diverse attack on the feet, and he's finished 4 of his 8 pro wins by way of knockout. And Kleydson has much better Brazilian jiu-jitsu than the guys Taira has faced thus far. So perhaps if this fight does go to the ground, Kleydson will do better than we think he will. We're still waiting for Taira to truly be tested at the UFC level, and Kleydson is a very good prospect. So if we look at this matchup through the lens of this is the best guy Taira has faced thus far in his career, maybe we can find a path for Kleydson. In summary, though, Taira appears to be a legit prospect. He's still only 23 years old. He's 13-0. His style is suffocating, and he leaves almost no openings for his opponents to capitalize on. He's easily handled all 3 UFC opponents thus far, and he hasn't even lost a round yet. He's 4 years younger. He's 1 inch taller. He's got a 3-inch reach advantage. We haven't seen much of his striking yet, but he uses his length well, and he's already landed a knockdown in the UFC. I see Taira getting an early takedown and fighting Kleidson's back, hunting for submissions, and if he doesn't get the sub, I see him doing the same thing in round 2. And then again in round 3 if he doesn't get the sub in round 2, until he either finds the rear naked choke or he wins a unanimous decision. We don't know what Kleidson's takedown defense looks like outside of what we saw in the Curatolo fight on Dana White's Contender Series, where Santo got 2 takedowns on 6 attempts, and he controlled Kleydson for 82 seconds. Kleydson didn't show much of a get-up game in the Vergara fight either, so I feel it's safe to assume Taira gets the job done here, and I'm going to say it's going to be a second-round submission that winds up finishing this fight. For the uber prospect, Tatsuro Taira. I thought about getting on that Kleydson money line, but it's seriously a show-me spot for Kleydson. We don't really know much about the wrestling defense, about the submission defense, but we're definitely going to find out against this kid because he really appears to be something special. He's huge for the weight class, suffocating grappler, great defense. It's really hard to find any kind of moments against this kid, the way that he grapples and the way that he uses his length at distance. So really looking forward to seeing Taira back in there. And I think that this is a great prospect matchup. And it's going to be good to see Taira fight somebody that's also young, that's also explosive, and that's also got a really bright future in this weight class. All right, let's see what you guys are saying in the chat here. We got Taira sub probably, yeah. I think this might go all three, says True. That's interesting. I mean, yeah, it's going to depend on Rodrigues' submission defense for sure. Possible, but yeah, I know it is possible. Let's see. Let's take a look at the prop template for this fight. Taira, it looks like the fight goes to decision is plus 155. 2 of their 5 UFC fights have went to decision. That's 40%. And the implied probability of the line is sitting at 39%. Fights go to decision in the flyweight weight class 56% of the time, and we're only paying a 39% price. But these guys do go to decision at a 16% less rate at 40% than what the division does overall at 56%. But stylistically, yeah, I mean, if Taira or Kleydson doesn't get sparked on the feet, and if Taira doesn't get to Kleidson's back, or even if Kleydson finds his way on top, I mean, we did see Taira get swept by CJ Vergara, and then Vergara wound up finishing the first round on top. So you never know. Maybe Kleydson gets a sweep and winds up on top himself and has a good week and winds up winning some minutes there. We're gonna have to find out how Taira responds if that happens to him. But yeah, I wouldn't have the sack to bet fight goes in this one, not with how good Tatsuro Taira has been thus far at finding these submissions. And Daz Files is in the room saying, "Dog, what's up, dude?" MMA Hedge Fund saying for Taira to lose this fight, Kleydson has to KO him or hurt him badly. We got True saying he wins, in my opinion, will be slow and just ugly. Okay. SD Crusader says I'm with Taira Banks. Okay. We got MMA saying Taira minus 3.5 wins by sub or 30-27. That's a good point. That's not a bad idea. We got Daz saying Taira's the spot. I like the decision or a late sub, round 3 or decision prop. Backstabber in the room saying Taira anywhere near minus 200 is almost a gift in my eyes, and I will be loading up on him. His BJJ is next level, and it will take someone who is defensively sound on the wrestling side to stop this stud. Yeah, I agree. True saying Taira over 1.5 singing prior. That's not a bad idea. My man Weezy, sorry I'm late. Terry Mizzo in the room. What's up, dude? Thank you for hanging out, dude. We got MMA Hedge Funds. Where are you getting these points lines? What book? It's not out yet. It says MMA Hedge Funds. Just saying that's a good play. Greenbat saying, how's it going, Weezy? War Ilya, let's stack them. Let's get it, man. Vergara is criminally underrated. I love his pressure. Love CJ Vergara's pressure, man. You think they're going to have minus 3.5 in a 3-round fight? Yeah, they will. That's always what they set the points handicap at. We got, what's the max? Like you would max bet something, minus 300? Yeah, I would max bet minus 3. I'd even max bet minus 350 or minus 400 if I, like, let's say minus 400 is 80% implied probability. If I'm thinking that happens 95% of the time, I might max bet it. 5 units to win 1.25. Anything over minus 150 to minus 400-ish, I kind of feel like if I'm not willing to max bet it, I won't bet it. And the only way I'll bet it then is if I can find another plus EV spot to parlay it with to get it near plus money. And then Smokestack saying Taira is minus 250 on Bet MGM. I think he's better than that on Taira is minus 235 on Bet Online. So that's an even better line there. All right, you guys, let's get back to it here. We've got Jamaal Emmers versus Jack Jenkins here. Emmers a big favorite at minus 210. Jack Jenkins plus 180, and the fight doesn't go to decision, sitting at plus 120 for this fight. So first, let's talk about Jamaal Emmers' advantages. Now, he's going to be the bigger dude in this fight. He's 3 inches taller, and he's got a 6-inch reach advantage over Jenkins. Jamaal has the overall and the UFC experience advantages. He has 12 more professional fights, 140 more minutes in the pro cage, and almost 4 more years as a professional fighter. Jamaal also has 3 more UFC fights and over 30 more minutes in the octagon compared to Jenkins. Emmers' striking is very solid, in my opinion. He's got a positive 1.67 distance striking differential in the UFC. He's got 43% accuracy and almost 66% distance striking defense. All of his metrics are considered above average for the division, with the exception of power. And you can see it here. It's all green, except for this red dot here. It's all green. He's either at or above the average in all of his distance striking numbers, whether they're offense or defense. So he's definitely doing an excellent job. And even in the clinch and ground striking stats, he lands 3.36 per minute, only absorbs 1.32, well above average in terms of volume thrown, and how much volume comes his way is below average. So that's green. And then even look over here, green in control time stats. Green here for takedown accuracy. Green here for takedowns landed and attempted per 15 minutes. You know, he's got a lot of metrics, Jamaal Emmers, that are considered to be above average for the division. He's a good fighter. Jamaal definitely uses his reach well, and he's performed really well on the feet against skilled strikers like Giga Chikadze. Jamaal can flat out wrestle. I wish he uses wrestling more, but when he does go to it, he shows a great ability to win minutes with it. Jamaal is 8 of 16 on his takedown attempts, has shown 100% takedown defense. His control time 4, which is 28.58%, and control time allowed, which is only 3.77%, are both well above average for the featherweight division. Jamaal is winning over 88% of the control time positions he's been in, out-controlling his opponents at a 7.58 to 1 ratio. And Jamaal's such a gifted athlete. He was not gifted with great fight IQ or in-fight decision-making, but the skill, the speed, the explosiveness he has can make up for a lot of bad decisions. And Jamaal has fought and beaten a much better brand of competition in his career. Now, Jack Jenkins is over 4 years younger than Jamaal, and he's got great pocket boxing. He showed it off against Don Shainis in his debut. He outlanded him 53 to 29 at distance, showing a positive 3.56 distance striking differential with 59% accuracy. His low leg kicks are a massive weapon for him, and he's won fights by featuring that weapon. And Jack has also shown the ability to win minutes with his wrestling. Between his Dana White Contender Series fight and his UFC debut, he's gotten 8 takedowns in over 17 minutes of control time. So in summary, I think this fight comes down to who will be the better minute winner. I see it going the full 15, and because of that, I'm interested in the Jenkins money line. I always saw Emmers as someone who relied on his athleticism and doesn't really fight with a smart game plan. Therefore, because I can see on tape that Jenkins has the better understanding of how to win minutes, I can see a path for him here. I like his low leg kicks, and if he lands a few of those early, he can slow down Emmers' movement and maybe get a takedown or two and find some big shots when he finds his way into the pocket. Emmers is a very talented fighter. He's athletic. He's explosive. He's long and tall for the division, and his wrestling is legit. I just can't justify laying juice on a guy like Emmers, who pulls stunts and does incredibly stupid shit over and over again, like not wrestle against Giga Chikadze, like follow Pat Sabatini to the ground after he knocked him down, and then putting himself into a heel hook that tore up his knee and caused him to have to take 18 months off. I'm going to pick Jack Jenkins to get the upset here by using his head, landing low leg kicks, landing the bigger shots at defense, mixing in the wrestling, and making better in-fight decisions that will lead to him winning more minutes than Emmers does. So I'm going to pick him to win by decision here, Jack Jenkins, and I'm just warning everybody, I think that laying the juice on Jamaal Emmers this week against somebody like Jenkins, who has demonstrated very good in-fight decision-making, that has demonstrated, the ability to win fights with different game plans, either using the boxing and the low leg kicks or mixing in the wrestling, depending on the weaknesses of his opponent. So while it's not easy to find any weaknesses in Jamaal Emmers' game, the weakness that is there, that we all already know is there, is that Emmers makes dumb decisions. So if Jenkins can just make the better decisions and come in with a functional game plan of how to win minutes here, I think he'll stick to it, and I think he'll actually win the minutes. So very interesting spot here. I'm high on Emmers. I think he's a really good fighter, a very talented fighter, very well-rounded fighter. But I think that the Jack Jenkins side has all the value, and that's the way I'm going to play it this week. So Jenkins by decision is the pick. All right. Let's see what you guys are saying in the chat here. We got what's the let's see, what's the max you would max bet something -3? Yeah, we talked about that. I would go as high as that. Line is dropping on Taira. That's interesting, but I thought it was a little bit wide earlier in the week. Like, it was like -350 Taira plus 275 Kleydson. So I could see why some money came in on Kleydson. Want Jack to win, but Jamaal is a threat. Jamaal's good, man. I don't get the Jenkins love, says True. Jenkins might be a little bit too green in the UFC. Still love him, but I don't know if this is his night. Yeah, like Jamaal Emmers is going to be a damn tough test. Emmers is dumb about it. He's really good otherwise. Yeah, I know. He's really good. He just, some of the decision-making, it's like, Jamaal, what the hell were you thinking? And that strikes me as the kind of guy who just wants to rely on that athleticism, that wants to fly by the seat of his pants, that doesn't want a game plan. Just adrenaline dumb fucks him. Yeah, we'll see. Can't take such a bad IQ fighter at a semi-steep line. Yep. How can we finesse that number? I don't know, man. For Emmers, I guess it's, Emmers might want to take down Jenkins. Because Emmers is a fantastic wrestler, but I don't really know how to finagle that number down. Huge athleticism difference. There's no question about that, dude. Nigel Lee saying Emmers is an idiot. I will not bet on dipshits with bad IQ. He's better in my opinion, but can't trust him as far as I can throw him, which probably ain't that far. I agree. All right, you guys are absolutely killing it in the chat. 74 of you in here. I appreciate each and every one of you. Hit that thumbs up. Hit that subscribe if you haven't already. Please leave me a comment down below, and please consider joining the Patreon. But we've got so many fights to break down. I got to keep it moving, you guys. So let's get into this next one, which is going to be an absolute barn burner. We got Trevor Peek going up against the Chicago product, Chepe, Machine Gun, Mariscal. First, let's start talking about Trevor Peek here. Peek is 2 years younger and 3 inches taller than Chepe. Chepe is a featherweight who's taken this fight on short notice, about 1 week, up a weight class. So, he's going to be the much smaller guy in there. And Peek is a savage. He's finished all 8 of his pro wins inside the distance by knockout. This guy would fight you in a cornfield for free with nobody watching. Standing in the pocket with this guy and trading hooks is a really bad idea. Trevor is not a skilled, technical, well-rounded fighter, but what he is a fucking savage. And if you don't have that dog in you, this guy is going to break your fucking face. The striking metrics don't mean much in a 2.5-minute sample size, but what you do see there is exactly how Trevor fights. And look at all the green, right? Just green, 14.61 significant strikes landed per minute at distance. 27.2 attempted, 15.78 more than the average for the division. So this guy is fighting like an absolute wild man. He's fighting like he's triple parked, like his hair is on fire, and that he's got to get home to his pregnant wife and drive her to the hospital. Peek does not get paid by the minute to fight. He just wants to go in there, end this thing, and go home. And he is an absolute savage, and you need a frying pan to knock this dude out. Chepe Mariscal is much more experienced as a professional in comparison to Trevor Peek. He's got 11 more fights, 150 more minutes in the pro cage, and he's got 6 more years as a pro fighter. Like Peek, Chepe is also a very aggressive striker. He throws punches in bunches, and he swings for the fences. This fight is going to be fun as long as it lasts. Chepe is the more well-rounded, well-tested fighter. He has a judo background. We've seen him successfully mix in the wrestling on the regional scene. Peak really doesn't have much of an offensive ground game unless he gets on top, in which case he lands fantastic grounded pound. But he's probably not going to try to take you down. If Mariscal doesn't want to deal with Peak on the feet, the option to get him down could be there for him if he wants to wrestle. Peak was taken down 4 times by Gonzalez in his UFC debut. And Chepe has faced a much better level of competition as a professional. I mean, just so you guys know, what this guy's been up to. Here, why don't we just look here? Chepe Mariscal has fought Sean Soriano, former UFC guy, Steve Garcia, Joe Anderson Brito, Yusuf Zalal, Pat Sabatini, Carl Deaton, Bryce Miller, Frank Buenafuente, Gregor Gillespie, LaShawn Alcox. He's fought everybody. This guy has been all over the regional scene. He's fighting the toughest guys that the regional scene has to offer. So he's finally getting his shot. Cicero, Illinois, stand up. Chepe is going to stand and bang with this dude, and it's going to be such a fun fight to watch. So this is going to be a car crash, and I think it's going to come down to who can take more punishment and persevere. Peak has shown that he's got that dog in him, and so has Chepe. But we've seen Mariscal knocked out 3 different times in his career, and Peak hits so hard. I love the under 1.5 rounds here. I think Peak gets the second round knockout. He's bigger, he hits harder, and Jose's taking this fight on short notice up a weight class. So that pick, you guys, is going to be Trevor Peak to win by second round knockout over the local product, Chepe Mariscal. All right. See what you guys are saying in the chat. Peak at plus 100 in some places. Now that's crazy. Massive size advantage for Peak. Also, he's very durable. Because he swings wild, the sharp consensus is to fade him. That's the mistake in this matchup, fellas. Yeah, I agree. 0 money for me, but I will personally beat Mariscal with my own hands if he hurts my boy. Hedge funds, I'm shocked. Is Peak injured? I don't know, man. Peak minus 190 was a fair line in my opinion. I hear you, dude. Lost to better fighters, says True. Yes. Peak is such an animal. Watching his post-fight interviews while doing tape study gives you the full picture. Hell yeah, man. Peak is terrible, but this guy isn't good. I hear you. Chepe is more skilled, has a lot more experience and a wrestling base. I'm not sure if Peak has a cardio problem, so I can picture him going crazy for 15 minutes. Yeah, Peak does not have a cardio problem, you guys. You watch him on the regional scene, all of his fights start off at an absolutely furious pace, and some of them even go into the 3rd round. And you never see Peak get tired. The guy's got he's got so much fight in him, everybody. Gotta love me some Peaks. His Daz MMA saying Joe Brito absolutely starched Chepe, knocked him into another dimension. Yeah, dude, Brito hits like a truck. Nigel Lee saying I'm waiting for the line to possibly drop more. Currently plus 105. I'm packing up the Brinks truck. Yes, sir. I have a play on the over 4.5 rounds or 4.5 minutes probably. I'll be sweating bullets. Thought I'd make the fight even more exciting. Peak is a pick'em at FanDuel right now, Unc. That's good. That's good. That's a good line. 4.5 minutes, yes. Peak it is. Love Peak. Peak by brutal, bloody murder. Even Money Peak will fight for your money, absolutely. Or I got to visit my therapist. Peak also has a solid get-up game. What's Chepe's path? I don't know, man. I'm picking Peak. So, but Chepe's got his work cut out for him, and he's in the UFC. So we'll probably get a couple more fights too for being the only guy that wants to take a Trevor Peak fight on short notice. So, yeah, man, this is going to be a great fight. All right, let's get to the next fight. Well, and by the way, yeah, Peak minus 110, Mariscal minus 110, and the fight doesn't go to decision. Juice to the tits at minus 400. So the next fight is going to be Zhalgas Zhumagulov at minus 200 versus the newcomer Joshua Van plus 170. Fight doesn't go to decision here at plus 135. Let's get these stats up on the screen for you guys. And there we are. And let me get to my notes now. And another sip of coffee so I can stay up all night. All right. Zhalgas has got a 2-inch reach advantage. He's a switch stance fighter fighting the orthodox fighter here in Van. Double Z has got the overall and the UFC experience advantages. He has 14 more fights, 225 more minutes in the pro cage, and he's 7 more years as a professional fighter. He's also got 6 more UFC fights, 66 more minutes in the octagon due to the fact that Joshua Van will be making his debut here on Saturday. And Zhalgas is a pretty durable dude. He's only been finished twice in 22 pro fights and 8 pro losses. Van was finished in his only loss, so I'd say with the guys that ZZ has been in there with over his career that it's Zhalgas who has the durability edge here. Zhalgas is a busy striker. He's attempting 12.76 distance strike attempts per minute, which is well above average, and he lands 5.74 per minute, which is also well above the divisional average, as you can see right here. And the divisional average is only 3.93. So Zhalgas is very busy on the feet, but he does absorb a lot as well. And Zhalgas is definitely going to be the guy more likely to win minutes with his wrestling in this matchup. Van is easy to take down, and his submission defense is still a work in process. Zhalgas has attempted 31 takedowns, as you can see right here, in 6 fights, which is well above the divisional average. He hasn't yet been accurate or able to win a lot of minutes with his grappling, but this step down in the level of competition against a less experienced opponent, taking the fight on short notice, might be the opportunity Zhalgas needs to show off his wrestling and top control game, and maybe it could lead to a submission. And Zhalgas has fought, beaten, and lost to the better, more experienced competition over his pro career in comparison to Van. Now, Joshua Van is 13 years younger than Zhalgas. 13 years younger. He's only 21 years old, and his pro career has only spanned 1 year and 8 months. So he's young. He's brand new to the sport, but he's been very active over the last 20 months, fighting 8 times, winning 7 of those fights, all by finish. So Josh is a finisher. He goes for it in there. He has a 100% finish rate in his 7 wins. He's got 5 knockouts. He's got 2 submissions, including a win by calf slicer. So he does have an offensive submission attack of his own. And Josh throws a ton of volume on the feet. At distance, he pressures constantly. He throws in combination. And he loves to mix in lots of right leg head kicks meant to knock his opponents out. He's orthodox, so that right leg is the rear leg, and he throws it with power, and he loves the head kick. So he also does great work in the clinch. He throws knees and he digs to the body quite a bit while he's there. That body work exhausts his opponents and makes it even more difficult to deal with his pace. Josh definitely does his best work as a fighter when he's on the feet, pressuring his opponents and putting a pace on them. And you'll see that when you watch the tape on this kid. It's pace, it's pressure, it's volume, and it's body work that do the best stuff. And then after you're sick of getting your body just tenderized, that's when he goes upstairs with the head kick and ends your night. So this is going to be a fun fight. Obviously, Zhalgas has a ton of advantages on paper. He's more experienced. He's durable. He's landing a high volume of strikes at distance. He's the more committed wrestler. He's fought the much better brand of competition over his career. Now, Joshua is 13 years younger, though, and his pace and pressure are difficult to deal with, and he's a nightmare to deal with in the clinch. That being said, it looks like Van's takedown and submission defense are works in progress, and if Zhalgas makes this a wrestling match, he should take Van to very uncomfortable places where it'll be hard for the debutant to find his way into this fight. I bet the under 2.5 rounds here at plus 160 on Bet Online because of the short notice for Van. Van has a 100% finish rate in his 7 wins, and he's been finished in his only loss. Van has never been out of the 3rd round or out of the 2nd round in his pro career. So I'm picking Zhalgas to win this fight by 2nd round knockout, and I've got the under 2.5 at plus 160. I think it's a fantastic number, plus 160 to get, which means that you're paying less than 40% implied probability on this line. But Josh Van has never seen a 3rd round in his career. He's taking the fight on short notice. And there's a potential for an adrenaline dump in any UFC debut, especially against an opponent like Zhalgas, who's also going to push the pace. So I do like Zhalgas. I'm going to pick him to win this one by second round knockout, and I am hoping that happens, because then I'll cash a really nice plus 160 under 2.5 rounds ticket. All right. Let's see what you guys are saying in the chat. No Tuesday Palomas, says True. Now, man, I got my coffee here. There was just so much work to do today, and I don't even have any tequila or grapefruit soda in the house, so I wouldn't have been able to make a Paloma. So since I was just working, I was like, I'm putting on an extra pot of coffee. We're going to get all this work done tonight. We got a lot left to do. So let's keep going here. Wait, let me just... Oh, my God, Bob is in the room. What's up, dude? True saying ZZ is a negative fighter. He loses fight because of his ring generalship. Yeah, ZZ is never has been beaten down by judges. 1-5 UFC record is misleading, yes. And Zhalgas' new hairdo, I got to put something on it. Oh, yeah, man. All right, let's see here. Let's keep it going. Yeah, Josh Van is a tough kid, yeah. But I didn't like the way that DJ Quick, took him down easily, got to his back, and then finished him in the second round, for sure. Joshua Van to win by split decision is set at minus 650. Wow. That is one of the worst lines. Do not max bet that, Victor de Jesus. I promise that is negative EV at minus 650. All right, guys, let's get to this next fight, which is going to be the Twitter argument of the week. It is the baby shark, Tabatha Ricci, going up against Gillian the Savage Robertson. This is going to be, oh boy, I'm going to lose half of you when I tell you that who I'm picking here, because everybody's got a side on this fight and everybody's 100% confident about their side. But right now, Tabatha Ricci on BetOnline, minus 124. Gillian, the underdog, at plus 104. Fight doesn't go to decision, sitting at plus 150 here. So, let's first start talking about Tabatha Ricci's advantages. Tabatha's 4-0 in decisions in her pro career, and Gillian is 2 wins and 5 losses. So just by that number, it shows that Tabatha has an understanding of how to win minutes and fight to her opponent's weaknesses. Tabatha's winning minutes with her grappling, and she has high-level judo and Brazilian jiu-jitsu backgrounds. Grappling is Tabatha's bread and butter for sure. She has got 14 takedowns at the UFC level, and she's only yielded 1. She gets her takedowns at a 52% clip. She's averaging 4.64 takedowns per 15 minutes, and she's winning over 96% of the control time positions she's been in so far, out-controlling her opponents 47% to 1.84%. If Tabatha can be the one to dictate when the grappling exchanges occur and can get Gillian down, that will be her best path to victory here. Now, Gillian Robertson advantages. Gillian is actually the younger fighter here, which is shocking. 28 years old and 17 days. 28 years old, 3 months, 13 days for Tabatha Ricci. So Gillian's been fighting in the UFC for almost 6 years now, since she was 22 years old. Gillian finishes fights. She's got an 89% finish rate at the UFC level. 7 wins by way of submission, 1 by ground and pound knockout over the very handsome Sarah Frota. Gillian does her best work where Tabatha does her best work, on the mat. Gillian spent most of her UFC career at flyweight and amassed impressive wrestling, grappling, and control time numbers there. She's getting 2.63 takedowns per 15 minutes here. You can see a lot of green here on the offensive end for Gillian Robertson's grappling numbers. She gets 1.03 submission attempts per 15 minutes and 0.46 reverses per 15 minutes. She's winning almost 70% of the control time positions that she's been in, and her fights are in control time positions almost 2/3 of the time. So she's very good at not being at distance striking range, where she clearly isn't as comfortable. Gillian has got 14 UFC fights. 13 of them were at flyweight. She's been in there with much bigger girls, and she's fought way better competition over the course of her career in comparison to Tabatha Ricci. So I see this fight coming down to who the better wrestler is. Whoever wins the wrestling battle is the one who will win minutes and potentially moments in the grappling exchanges. These ladies are very similar in their skill sets. Both are below average strikers. Both rely on top control to win minutes and moments, and both fighters willingly spend most of their UFC octagon time in control time positions. The differences I see here are Gillian is much bigger. She's a former flyweight. She's fought and beaten a much better level of competition in her career, and she's far more experienced as a professional. Tabatha, against low-level competition, has only finished 3 of her 8 pro wins by submission, while Gillian has a 75% career win rate by submission. She's got 9 career submission wins, and 8 of those 9 came up at flyweight. This is an easy one for me. I think Gillian is better than Tabatha. I think she dictates the pace of the wrestling and gets the top control necessary to win this fight by decision, and that is going to be my pick. Gillian Robertson by decision, and it's because she's fought the better brand of competition. It's because she's more experienced. It's because she's fought the bigger girls. There's a lot of advantages on paper, but when it comes down to the stylistic read here, these girls are both grapplers with not good striking. So it's not like Ricci is notably better than her anywhere, but she definitely is at that experience disadvantage. She's definitely at a size disadvantage. She's definitely at a strength of schedule disadvantage. This is easy for me. I think the Robertson money line is where all the value is. Haven't gotten to a money line bet on it yet, but it's probably going to happen this week. And Gillian Robertson at plus money is going to be a track bet for your Uncle Weezy at some point for probably 1 unit. Gillian Robertson by decision is the pick. Okay. Let's go see what you guys are saying in the chat here. Diehard MMA is all over Robertson. I'm going to be joining him. Ricci tough, but Gillian by dismemberment. Let's go, Gilly. The fact that she came down weight and will be the bigger girl, she's a value at plus money. I'm with you there, Daz. I don't think Gillian will get the sub, but I think she is evolving right now. But you're leaning Ricci decision. Cool. TBB Pick says money line such a good spot for Gilly, but sub. Yeah. The Piero win was a good sign for her to move down. She was always undersized. Agree. Show me one Fury grappling event that Ricci attended, and I'll show you a liar. I don't know. I don't know if she's been to any of them. So the younger, more experienced Canadian fighter, I'm in. Yep. Gillian's BJJ is better than people think. Oh, I agree with that. Yeah, for sure, man. Why is Gillian the dog? It's Disney ass UFC, man. Well, there's simps on both sides here. They're both very attractive ladies. So, and it's something about the women's fights that always gets people at each other's throats and thinking that they're right. So, yeah, man, this is going to be a very, very fun fight to watch. And I'm picking Gillian Robertson to win this one by decision. All right, the next fight is going to be Mateusz Rebecki at minus 150 going up against the Tajik tank, Loik Radzhabov at plus 130. Fight doesn't go to decision here. Plus money at plus 130. All right, so let's start talking about Mateusz Rebecki here and his advantages. He's going to be the younger fighter by 1 year, and he's the southpaw in this southpaw versus orthodox matchup. Mateusz has an eye for the finish. He's finished 14 of his 17 pro wins, 6 of them by submission, 8 by knockout, so he can get finishes in multiple ways. And he's got the perfect style for his skill set and for his size. He's not tall or long, but he throws huge overhand rights that have to be respected. And if it lands, great, you're probably going down. But if not, he uses the momentum from the punch to dive in on a takedown attempt, and he loves to get takedowns, pass the guard, and work for submissions. Mateusz definitely seems to know who he is and how to fight to his strengths. Now, in one UFC fight and one Dana White Contender Series fight, Mateusz has shown off his grappling. He's 5 of 7 on his takedowns, and he has almost 11 minutes of control time in only 18 minutes of octagon time. So he got a no-hooks rear naked choke finish on Dana White Contender Series. He was 3 of 4 on takedowns with almost 8.5 minutes of control time while outlanding Fiore at distance 63-28 in his UFC fight. That fight was at distance for only 6 minutes, yet Rebecki attempted 138 distance strikes in those 6 minutes. So his volume and pace are definitely assets for him. Now for the Tajik tank, Loik Radzhabov, he's going to be the bigger dude. He's 1 inch taller, and he's going to have a 2-inch reach advantage here. Loik's wrestling is top-notch, and it's been tested at a higher level than Rebecki's has. Loik attempted 21 takedowns in 15 minutes versus Rebecki. He got 11 of them. He accumulated 56.33% control time, and he only allowed 3.78% control time. I think these guys have similar levels to their wrestling. It's just that we've seen Loik show it off against higher-level opponents than Rebecki has. Loik's fought the better brand of competition in his career. He's fought for $1 million twice in PFL, and he lost both finals, one to Natan Schulte and the other to Hausch Manfield, both by decision in 5-round fights. He's fought and beaten the better brand of competition, and he's also more durable in that Rebecki's been finished in his only professional loss, and Loik Radzhabov has never been finished as a professional, and he's been in 5-round fights against some really high-level competition. So I see this fight being very stylistically similar to the fight that we just talked about, Ricci versus Robertson. I see it coming down to whoever gets the takedowns and wins the minutes in the grappling exchanges. Both guys are great grapplers, but I think Loik is the better wrestler, while I think Rebecki is the more dangerous and opportunistic submission grappler. I love how Rebecki throws with reckless abandon on the feet, but if he does that against Loik, he's probably going to get taken down. Loik has proven himself against much higher level competition. He's more experienced, and he's never been finished in his pro career. So I'm going to pick him to win this fight by decision, and I predict that he's going to do it using his wrestling and just show Mateusz what it's like, to wrestle at the level that Radzhabov has been wrestling at. He's going to have to definitely, keep from getting swept and watch out for the submission attempts of Rebecki, who I'm sure is going to be very aggressive. But I do like Loik Radzhabov's wrestling quite a bit, and I think that that's going to be the difference maker here. And so I'm picking him to win this fight by decision. So Loik, the Tajik tank, by decision is the pick here. All right. Let's see what you guys are saying in the chat. We got Sicky saying, am I crazy for thinking about playing Radzhabov versus Rebecki under 2.5 at plus 140? Yes, Raj hasn't been finished, but stylistically, I like it. Well, yeah, I mean, like, both of these guys are finishers. Both of these guys finish their wins. And Rebecki's been finished in his only loss. And I think both these guys throw with a lot of power on the feet. It's just, to try to expect Rebecki to get a finish versus Radzhabov when much higher level competition hadn't finished Radzhabov, I think it's going to be a tall order. I probably wouldn't play it, but it is the plus money side. Let's see what the prop template has to say about it, Sicky. It was plus 145 earlier in the week. Both of these guys have been to decision in both of their UFC fights. And outside the UFC, they went under 2.5 rounds in fights scheduled for 3 rounds, 16 out of 24 times, 2/3 of the time. But that number always goes down because the under 2.5 average is 47% for men's lightweights. So it's underpriced according to that metric. So stylistically, I think the bookies think that this one goes over. I tend to agree with them stylistically on that. So you're getting the discount prices here when you compare them to the benchmark. Both are straight dogs, says True. If it goes you, it'll be Rebecki. You probably, says Sicky. Rebecki was a debut fight. Guys aren't the same afterwards. If this went to decision, I would not be surprised. Yeah, me neither. Loik might be the dog of the week, says 0. I'm thinking about betting the Loik money line. I haven't gotten there yet, but I think I might do it. Outstriking Fiore doesn't count for much at this point. I agree with you, Remdog. Absolutely. TBB likes the over. Fight probably goes 2 grapplers, he's saying. All right, let's move on to the next fight, which is going to be Randy Rude Boy Brown at minus 220. Jamaica stand up, going against Wellington Turman at plus 185. Fight doesn't go to decision. Minus 165 for this fight. Let's get these stats up on the screen for you guys. And we're going to first start talking about the Rude Boy, Randy Brown here. He's always going to be the bigger dude at welterweight. He's got oh, and by the way, this is Wellington Turman's debut at welterweight. Wellington Turman always been a middleweight. This fight at welterweight. So big weight cut for Wellington Turman. We're definitely going to want to see him on the scales. I wanted to address that first. Now we're going to talk about Randy Brown. He's going to be the bigger dude, even though Wellington Turman's coming down a weight class. He's got a 3-inch height advantage, and he's going to have a 6-inch reach advantage in this spot. Randy's got the higher level experience. He has 8 more UFC fights, and he's got 80 more minutes in the UFC octagon in comparison to Wellington. Randy's been more dangerous at the UFC level as a finisher. He's found 5 finishes and 10 UFC wins with 3 submissions and 2 knockouts. So he's potent and diverse as a finisher. Randy should be the more dangerous minute and moment winner at range in this fight. He's got that 6-inch reach advantage. He throws more volume than Turman. He throws 14.25 distance strike attempts per minute in comparison to 12.86 for Turman. He has the better distance striking differential here at 1.16 compared to negative 0.1 for Turman. And he's landed 4 UFC knockdowns compared to 0 for Turman. And his defense is better as he spends more time at range. We could see about 54% of Randy Brown's 154 minutes in the cage have been spent at distance striking range, while Turman, the grappler, spending less time at distance striking range. He's definitely trying to force the grappling exchanges. Only about 39% of his fights take place at distance striking range. And frankly, I think he's going to want to grapple here because he's going to be at that huge reach disadvantage here. Randy Brown uses his length well, and he pops. So I think that Wellington's going to want to be trying to take this dude down. So Randy has fought and beaten the considerably better level of competition at the UFC level. His wins in particular are much better than Turman's here. As we can see, Randy Brown's ratio in his wins, 1.26, and it's 0.72 for Turman. So the combined UFC records of the guys Turman has beaten, 18 wins, 25 losses, while for Randy Brown, it's 59 wins and 47 losses. So he's beating guys with winning records here. And overall, he's fighting guys with a 1.61 win-to-loss ratio, 98 wins and 61 losses, compared to Wellington, who's fighting guys with just slightly losing records at a 0.92 ratio, 35 wins and 38 losses. Now, Wellington Turman is 6 years younger than Randy Brown. He's got a comparable level of overall experience. Turman spends over 61% of his 75 minutes in the UFC octagon in control time positions, so he fights to his strengths. He's still young. He's still improving as a mixed martial artist, so if he can find ways to get fights into control time positions more often, he'll be more successful in the future. Look at that. Wellington Turman's still only 27 years old, and he's got 24 professional fights, over 200 minutes in the pro cage, which is actually more than what Randy Brown has as a professional. So Randy Brown's, pushing 33 years old, while Wellington Turman is pushing 27. So they're at slightly different places in their pro careers. In addition, we do know that Wellington Turman has attempted 42 takedowns in his 7 UFC fights. So Randy Brown has only seen 42 takedowns in 15 fights. So he's facing guys that attempt less than 3 takedowns per fight, while Wellington Turman is facing, is somebody who's attempting about 6 takedowns per fight. So Brown is going to see more of a grappling heavy game plan here. As you can see, Turman spends over 60% of his fights in control time positions, and he wins about 50% of them. He doesn't have good takedown defense, but Randy Brown is not somebody who shoots a lot of takedowns. So I think, Randy Brown's going to win the minutes while this fight is standing with his length and his power, and his ability to maintain distance. And Turman's going to have to close that distance on Randy Brown, get in on his hips, try to take him down, and then he's going to have to stay safe from the submission attempts of Randy Brown, who's very tricky off of his back, uses those long limbs very well. And Turman's going to have to, get on top, use his BJJ, and kind of like wear down Randy Brown. I need to see Wellington Turman, though, on the scales. Making the cut from 185 down to 170 is a big deal. It's a 15 additional pounds to cut. So I really need to see how Wellington Turman looks on the scale here. I'm not enthusiastic about laying that kind of juice on a fighter like Randy Brown, especially when Wellington Turman, might make him grapple a lot more than he's used to. And if he does that successfully, I could see him winning this fight. So I think, I need to see Wellington on the scales. I'm going to pick Randy Brown to win this fight by decision, I'll just say for right now. But if it looks like Turman's dying on the scales, I'll probably change that to a knockout pick because, cutting from 185 down to 170, we're going to have to see how Wellington looks. But it wasn't like he was fat at 185 and had a ton of weight to lose. So we'll see how the weight cut goes. But just for now, to be safe, I'm going to go with Randy Rude Boy Brown to win this fight by decision. All right. Let's see. Brown, I think, schools him, says Sicky. We've got SD Crusader saying Randy by KO or pass. Turman already has some durability concerns, and losing on an extra 15 pounds ain't help you. It's an excellent point there. Fender saying, seems level of competition is the glaring factor here. Wins over Alvey and Serkinov, unfortunately, haven't aged well. Agreed. Yeah, and even in the Alvey fight, he got 2 points taken away and he still won that fight. He outboxed Sam Alvey. What a shit performance by Alvey. $0 for me, too volatile, says TBB. I have a theory, Weezy. Fighters that lose by sub tend to win by sub in their next fight. Do you have stats on this? I do not. I don't have stats on that. TBB saying I've got the same theory. Would love some numbers on it. I do not have that kind of. I could probably, if I put it all into an SQL database, figure all that stuff out, but I don't know how to do that. So right now everything's in Excel, and there are certain things that I know how to compute and other things that I just can't. All right, let's move on to the next fight here, which is going to be Neil Magny going up against Philip Rowe, the Fresh Prince. So there we go. We can see that Neil Magny is minus 160 here, the favorite. Phil Rowe plus 140, the underdog, and the fight doesn't go to decision at plus 125 right now on Bet Online. And I have bet that fight doesn't go to decision for this fight. So let's first start talking about Neil Magny, the veteran. He's got massive experience advantages here over Philip Rowe. As a pro, Neil's got 24 more pro fights. He's got over 340 more minutes in the pro cage compared to Phil Rowe. Almost 6 hours more in the pro cage than Rowe. And he's got 4 more years as a pro fighter. Neil also has 25 more UFC fights and well over 300 more minutes in the UFC octagon. Over 168-minute sample size for Neil Magny of distance striking range in the UFC. Neil's got a positive 1.1 distance strike differential. He's outlanding his opponents at a 1.32 to 1 ratio. And he's got a positive 4.22 distance strike attempt differential. So he's throwing a lot more attempts per minute than his opponents does. So he puts a pace on his opponents at range. He throws a lot more and lands more than them, uses his reach well, stays behind his jab, and he stays safe behind that solid 59% distance striking defense. Neil's best weapon is his pace. He's always in top condition. His output at distance in the clinch with the offensive wrestling, with the ground and pound, and with the submission attempts is always above average. And if you aren't ready for that pace, he can absolutely finish you later in fights. Neil is a solid wrestler. He's got 2.4 takedowns per 15 minutes, 5.67 takedown attempts per 15 minutes. They're both well above average for the division, and he gets 22% control time which is also above average for the division. So his wrestling and control time are just another part of Magny's game where he seems to outwork his opponents. And Neil has fought, beaten, and lost to the much better level of UFC competition compared to Phil Rowe. Now, Phil Rowe is 3 years younger than Neil Magny. He's a finisher with serious power in his hands. Phil has finished all 10 of his pro wins inside the distance. He's got 4 submissions and 6 knockouts. And Phil has as many UFC knockdowns in 4 UFC fights as Neil has in 29 UFC fights. So there's obviously a power differential here. And Phil is also a high volume striker. He throws 14.41 distance strike attempts per minute, and he lands 6.38. So his distance striking differential is negative. So he does absorb a ton of volume, but he definitely appears to be able to match the pace that Neil brings. But here's the problem. Phil Rowe always has problems making weight. And when you cut as much weight as Phil Rowe does, and you've had as many weight misses as Phil Rowe has had, you know that always drags on the gas tank here. Against Nico Price, he weighed in at 174, and he barely made weight in the Witt, the Kosi, and the Green fights. So I'm really worried that the pace that Neil Magny puts on, if Rowe has a bad weight cut, that Neil Magny's going to finish this dude. And look, I mean, the wins for Phil Rowe are over Orion Kosi, Jason Witt, and Nico Price. And then you look at the regional scene wins, Leon Shabazian on the Contender Series. And then, it's guys like, Matt McKeon, Andrew Hellner, Cole Milani, Josh Zuckerman, Ian Brofsky, Jeremy Bethea. So, these are not the kind of wins that you see Magny getting over guys like Daniel Rodrigues, Max Griffin, Jeff Neal, Robbie Lawler, former champion, Anthony Rocco Martin, who's such a stud that he goes into casinos, whips his dick out of his pants, pisses on the floor, and then when security comes to nab him, he punches them in the fucking face and kicks their ass. So that's the kind of guy that Neil Magny's getting wins over here. Li Jingliang, Carlos Condit, Johnny Hendricks, who weighed in 4 pounds heavier, Hector Lombard, Kelvin Gastelum, Eric Silva, and the guys that are beating him, Damian Maia, Lorenz Larkin, Rafael Dos Anjos, Santiago Ponzinibbio, Michael Chiesa, Shavkat Rakhmonov, and Gilbert Burns. Philip Rowe's name doesn't belong with those guys' names. Philip's he's way less experienced here, but Philip has got serious power in his hands. He's finished all 10 of his pro wins inside the distance, 4 submissions, 6 knockouts. And, like I said, he's got as many knockdowns in 4 UFC fights as Neil has in 29. So there's definitely a high probability, in my opinion, that this fight finishes inside the distance. And right now we're getting plus 125. The fight doesn't go here. And that is a trifecta bet on my prop template. Plus 125 is a 44.44% implied probability. Fights finish inside the distance 50% of the time at welterweight. So we're getting a 5.56% discount there when we compare that to that. These guys are finishing inside the distance 53.33% of the time. So that's higher than the benchmark for the division, and it's higher than the price of the line. So all 3 of these metrics here are underpriced. So plus money when Neil Magny has been finished in 80% of his pro losses, and Phil Rowe has finished 100% of his pro wins. I feel like if Phil Rowe wins this fight, it's got to be inside the distance because he's not a great minute winner. He has to land that big shot. And Magny's going to out-wrestle him. Magny's probably going to outpace him. And Magny's fantastic at winning minutes in the clinch as well. So I kind of feel like Magny should win the minutes here. But if this fight does finish inside the distance, Rowe's going to have a good chance of finishing it. But I also think that experience differential that Magny has, that fantastic conditioning that he always has brought, 5-round experience, output wherever the fight goes. If Neil Magny starts wrestling successfully against the 53% takedown defense that Phil Rowe has shown and the 36.5% control time that he's allowed to his opponents, I think that this is going to be a great spot for Magny to wear him out and get a late finish himself. So plus 125 for the fight doesn't go to decision, in my opinion, is a fantastic bet. And I'm picking Neil Magny to win this fight by 3rd round submission. I think he's going to break Philip Rowe, who's probably going to have yet another nasty weight cut, and he's probably going to really fade under the pressure, the experience, the high-level competition that Neil Magny has faced. I think is going to be too much for the Fresh Prince in this spot. These guys look an awful lot alike, so make sure you keep them, you mind your P's and Q's when you're watching this, and you know who's who, so you root for the right person, depending on who your money's on. But my money's on Neil Magny, 3rd round submission, and I was actually looking at that prop, and it's fat, ladies and gentlemen. Neil Magny by 3rd round submission plus 3,000. It was plus 3,500 earlier in the week. And I'm going to be looking to see where DraftKings opens that one, because we've only got still props on the main event. So we're going to have to wait for that one to come out. But, yep, the pick is Magny, 3rd round submission. Okay, let's move on to the next fight. Brendan Allen. All in Allen, minus 180, going up against Bruno Blindado Silva, plus 155. Fight doesn't go to decision, juiced up to minus 325 for this fight. So let's get these stats up on the screen for you guys and talk first about Brendan All in Allen. He's over 6 years younger than Bruno Silva. He's got a 2-inch height advantage, and he's got a 1-inch reach advantage. Brendan has the UFC experience advantage with 5 more fights and over 50 more minutes in the octagon. Brendan also has 30 more minutes in the pro cage compared to Silva. So not only is Brendan 6 years younger, but he's more experienced and he's been busier as a professional fighter. And Brendan is an excellent grappler. If he chooses to mix in the wrestling here, he will make Bruno very uncomfortable. Brendan isn't much of a minute winner with his grappling. He only wins 52.6% of the control time positions he's in, and he attempts less takedowns than his opponents do. However, when the fight is on the mat, Brendan is very aggressive. He's attempting 1.46 submissions per 15 minutes, and he gets 1.31 reverses per 15 minutes, and 5 of his 9 UFC wins are by way of submission. So when Brendan does get fights to the ground, he's very dangerous. And Silva's been subbed 6 times as a pro in 8 losses. So if Brendan gets this fight to the ground, he could make quick work of Bruno Silva. And my strength of schedule metric gives Brendan a slight advantage overall and in his wins when it comes to the win-loss ratio of his opponents, but it's not a big difference at all. You could see 11.09 total fights for Brendan Allen's opponents and a 1.54 win-to-loss ratio. See, Bruno Silva's opponents a little more experienced, but not quite as good on the win-loss ratio. And then the ratio in the wins here for Brendan Allen is 1.39 compared to 1.09 for Silva. So my metric has Silva fighting the slightly better competition overall, and the wins for Silva, and the wins for Allen being better. Now, Bruno Silva, both of these guys are potent finishers, but Silva's finished a higher percentage of his wins inside the distance compared to Allen. 87% finish rate for Bruno Silva, all 20 of those finishes by way of knockout, and it's 81% for Brendan Allen. So Bruno's got serious power wherever the fight goes. He lands a knockdown on 1.23% of the distance strikes that he lands. He's savage in the clinch with his Muay Thai and his ground and pound. And just ask Wellington Turman about that ground and pound. He was bouncing that dude's head off the canvas. That was an absolutely nasty knockout. Bruno has as many knockdowns in 6 UFC fights as Brendan Allen has scored in 11 fights. So there's a power differential on the Silva side for sure. And we've seen Allen knocked out in both of his UFC losses. So I don't think Brendan Allen gets enough credit for the run that he's on. The kid is 9-2 in the UFC. He's finished 6 of his 9 wins inside the distance, and he's dangerous wherever the fight goes. His only two UFC losses are by knockout to Chris Curtis and Sean Strickland. So he's struggled with good pocket boxers, but he finds different paths to victory depending on the opponent. They just aren't what you think they would be before the fight starts. Brendan is still only 27 years old, and he's already accomplished a lot in the UFC at his age. And the possibility is still there for this kid to improve from here on out and show some better in-fight decision-making skills. If he does that, he's going to be a serious problem at middleweight. Bruno Silva has 20 wins by knockout, so he's exactly the kind of opponent that Allen has struggled with in the past. Can Brendan avoid the big shot? Allen's distance striking defense is less than 50%. We could see that right here. 49.78% distance striking defense, and he's absorbing 6.53 distance strikes per minute. Bruno Silva is landing, a knockdown on 1.23% of the distance strikes that he's landing. So the longer that this fight stays standing, the higher the probability that Bruno or Brendan lands a big shot here. But I really do think that it's Brendan that's going to be the one absorbing the big shot here, because Bruno Silva just flat out hits harder. So Allen's distance striking defense less than 50%. So I think Silva by KO is very live here due to the fact that we haven't been able to count on Allen to wrestle consistently. Therefore, at least half this fight, should take place at distance striking range, where Silva will be live to land that big shot. Silva by knockout is plus 265 on Bet Online, and I think it'll be a better number when DraftKings and FanDuel and Bet365 and Bet Rivers open it. I think a lot of the holes that we've seen in Brendan Allen's game are liable to be exposed by Silva, so I would be very hesitant to lay the juice on the Allen money line this week. I'll pick Brendan Allen to win by second round submission, and I already bet 1 unit on the under 1.5 rounds on Bet Online Sportsbook at plus 126 here. So if you see here, I'm going to go with Brendan All-In Allen to win by submission in round number 2. But if we go to the prop template here and look at the under 1.5 rounds here at plus 126, 37% of middleweight fights go under 1.5 rounds. We're paying 44%, but Brendan Allen's been under 1.5 rounds 6 of 11 times. Bruno Silva 3 of 6 times. So 53% of their combined 17 UFC fights have finished under 1.5 rounds. That's 53%. That's 8.69% better than the price of the line, which is 44.25%. And it's 15.83% better than the under 1.5 benchmark for the middleweight division, which is 37%. So you could see, that when you look at the performance of both of these fighters and their ability to finish fights or be finished under 1.5 rounds, it's over 50% in a big sample size. And stylistically, while this fight's on the feet, Silva's going to be live for a knockout. And if this fight goes to the ground and Silva winds up on top, he's going to be live for a ground and pound knockout, and Brendan Allen will be live for a submission. So stylistically, I like this under 1.5 rounds at plus money, and the data likes it as well. So that's a track bet for me this week. All right. Let's see what you guys are saying in the chat here. TBB says Allen sub or Silva KO. DGen for life saying, in my opinion, if you watch his older fights compared to his newer fights, he looks like he's declined. Still a decent fighter based on his experience and well-roundedness, but he's slower. Let's see. We got TBB saying Allen by sub or Bruno by bloody fucking murder is a smash. And if the bookies are kind enough to give you that for 50 cents, smash it like Bonnie Jones smashed his ex. Yeah. Allen sub or Silva KO. Allen touchable is, yeah, for sure. He's got bad defense. Allen likes Remdog likes second or third round submission for Allen. Easy Read says TBB. Allen has made me so much money. My favorite fighter to bet on. Yeah, the dude's 8-2 in the UFC, so he's had a hell of a run. Fight doesn't go to decision. Allen sub or Silva KO. Silva's a strong man, and he has that hard-hitting striker for sure, dude. I can't trust Allen. He may go Marvin Vettori out there and not wrestle. Yep. Pick'em saying Allen got KO'd by Strickland, who's a volume striker. I want Allen to win, and he has all the skills, but yeah, Bruto's so dangerous. Absolutely. I think we gave a good read on this fight, and we'll see how it all shakes out in the end, but I love that under 1.5 rounds at plus money this week. 73 of you hanging out here live. Smash that like button. Hit that subscribe button. Please consider joining the Patreon and leave me a comment down below, even if it's just to yell oi at your Uncle Weezy. I appreciate everybody that takes the time to do that. Next fight is going to be David Onama going up against Gabriel Mosquetino Santos. And the line for this one is Onama, the big plus money here at plus 195. Mosquetino minus 230. Fight doesn't go to decision here, sitting at minus 145. So let's first start talking about David Onama. He's going to be the bigger fighter. He's 2 inches taller, and he's got a 3-inch reach advantage over Gabriel. David has been more active as a pro, fighting 12 times in just over 4 years, while Santos only has 11 pro fights in almost a 9-year career. David also has the UFC experience advantage with 3 more fights and almost 30 more minutes in the UFC cage. And David's a bona fide finisher. He's got a 100% finish rate in his 10 pro wins, 4 submissions, 6 knockouts. Onama's volume has been crazy at distance striking range. He's attempting almost 19 distance strikes per minute, which is almost 7 more than the average for the division. And he's landing a whopping 8.09 distance strikes per minute and absorbing 8.27. So he's definitely been in very high-paced fights. And Onama also has 3 more UFC-level fights, and for that reason, he's got the tougher strength of schedule as a pro. But Santos has fought a very solid level of regional scene competition. And if you put Gabriel Santos's regional scene resume next to David Onama's regional scene resume, Santos is easily 2 or 3 times more impressive. You look at Onama, he was fighting an FAC against a lot of bums, and it wasn't until he got to the UFC that he started fighting some real competition, while Gabriel Santos definitely going out there against much higher level competition for sure on the regional scene. Now, Gabriel Santos, he's got more pro fights and he's got 4.5 more years as a professional fighter. And Santos is also in very high-paced fights. His war with Laurent Murphy in his UFC debut is an excellent example of how he fights. Very offensively oriented, eats one to give one, not defensively gifted, but he's very durable. He pushes a pace, he pressures, he mixes in the grappling. So if you aren't comfortable with pace, Santos can definitely break you. And he showed an excellent ability to mix in the wrestling in his debut against Murphy. He landed 5 takedowns on 11 attempts and outcontrolled Murphy 26.67% to 15.33%, winning 63.5% of the control time positions. I like Santos here. I love the pace this kid puts on. He mixes in the wrestling, he throws good volume on the feet, and he's more well-tested on the regional scene than Onama is. The UFC wins for Onama over Gabriel Benitez and Garrett Armfield were both nice wins. However, neither one of those guys are UFC level right now. I mean, Benitez is definitely on his way out. Armfield should have never been here in the first place. And then the losses to especially the Mason Jones loss is aging pretty poorly. And then the Nate Landwehr loss, you know, he really showed like after he had 1 round there. He almost finished Landwehr in the first, but when he didn't get that finish, we saw that there was nothing left in the second and the third. So, you know, I fear Onama has a long way to go. You know, he's less experienced, in my opinion, than Santos is. He hasn't been tested at the level Santos has, especially on the regional scene. So it's going to be a tough road to hoe for Onama. And I think Santos finishes this kid in the 3rd round via rear naked choke. But I also want to comment that there's a lot of recency bias in this line. You know, if Onama did get that finish in the 1st round versus Nate Landwehr, this line would be in a completely different spot. And we might be overrating Gabriel Santos in a loss. I mean, it was a loss that he took against Lerone Murphy, but I'll tell you something. I picked Lerone Murphy as the ass shaving of the week that week over Gabriel Santos. And I was nervous about it because I knew that Santos was a good fighter. But I leaned on the fact that Santos took the fight on less than a week's notice. He had to fly from Brazil to the United Kingdom. He had to make weight. And then he had to fight, in front of a very hostile crowd on his UFC debut after cutting weight on a plane. I kind of thought he would have about one round in him to do something, and then he would fade. Quite the opposite. He got better as the fight went on, and I think he cleanly won the second and the third round while the first round was close. I don't know how Murphy got that decision other than the fact that he's the hometown fighter, but Gabriel really looked fantastic against Lerone Murphy. And I think Lerone Murphy's a much higher level opponent than David Onama is. So I was very impressed by that. But you don't want to overrate fighters in losses. And you always have to be aware of where the line is. And minus 230 is a lot of juice to lay on a guy like Santos, who's coming off a loss and is only in his second UFC fight, while this is going to be Onama's fifth UFC fight. So even though I'm picking Gabriel Santos to win this fight by third round submission, I'm not going to be laying that kind of juice on him. And I'm actually considering maybe going with the over here because neither one of these guys has ever been finished in their pro career. So I could definitely see this fight going the distance. Even though Onama gassed out after round one against Landwehr, he showed that there's no quit in him and he could persevere through some bad spots. So it would be one of the sweatiest overs to bet ever, but I probably won't do it. I shouldn't have even said that I was considering it, but the prop template actually does like it as a trifecta bet. Let's see here. The fight goes to decision. We see 9.91% break here, 13.5%, and 3.6%. So it's a trifecta bet for the over 2.5 at plus 100, and the fight goes at plus 115. But like I say, it would be such a sweat that I wouldn't recommend it. But either way, let's see what you guys are saying in the chat. Let's see. Onama can bounce back here, I think. He says pick him. How the fuck was Nate the Train fight a majority this? I don't know. But it could have been because there was a 10-8 round in the first. Sorry, guys. I tried to warn you all. Petrosian is so good and also underrated that plus 150 was awesome. I was impressed by his performance. He landed a takedown as soon as he got hit in round 3. Yup. Santos is the more well-rounded, I think. Onama seems like the type of guy who could show up looking leveled up, and now he's at Factory X's Onama, so this could be a spot where he does look a lot better. The Nate fight, Onama paced himself poorly trying to get the finish. Yep, late finish for Santos, says Daz. I agree. D-Gen says, we just saw Santos, haven't seen Onama in a while. Yeah, Onama's been away for a minute. Big mental damage. I want to see Onama's mental bounce back. If he can't, I'm good on the man forever. Yeah, dude, because, I think that Krause lost like 7 figures on that fight. So that's a difficult thing for a young fighter to deal with. And then getting caught up with your coach being caught up in a gambling scandal, especially because the Minner fight might have been fixed in order to pay for the losses on the Onama fight. This kid might have a lot on his mind. I don't know what's going on there, and it's all speculation, you guys. So it's just a very interesting wrinkle of the conversation on this fight. Petrosian, a tested veteran, plus 250 was good to tag to play. Plus 150 was an excellent tag to play. Yes. Full camp for Santos this time. I know, man. I bet Nate the Train versus Onama and bet him live after round 1. Well, that cashed out really well for you. All right. The next fight is going to be Austin Lane at plus 155 versus Justin Tafa, minus 180. Fight doesn't go to decision. Juice to the tits at minus 400. So let's bring up these stats here. Austin Lane is making his debut. So Austin is the much bigger dude. He's 6 inches taller, and he's going to have a 6-inch reach advantage here. Lane is more experienced as a professional. He's got 6 more pro fights. a couple more minutes in the pro cage, and a couple more months as a pro. So he's also been the busier fighter, fighting around 2.5 times per year compared to about 1.5 times per year for Tafa. Lane is definitely the way more gifted athlete. Tafa's a tough guy with bricks for hands, but Lane is an explosive athlete. He played defensive line in the NFL, and his athletic gifts carry him a long way in this sport. If he can find ways to use that athleticism to outwork Tafa, he can find paths to victory here. And Austin should be the better wrestler. We never see Tafa wrestler. He's a pure kickboxer. So if Austin does have some wrestling in his back pocket and the willingness to use it, he could find ways to win minutes and get this fight to places where Tafa won't be nearly as dangerous. Now, Justin Tafa is 6 years younger than Austin Lane. Justin's got the UFC experience advantage as he's got 6 more fights and 37 more minutes in the UFC octagon in comparison to Lane, who's making his debut. Justin is definitely the better technical kickboxer. Both these guys have 100% finish rates, and both get knockouts almost every time, but it's clear that Tafa has a striking background while Lane is an athletic freak who uses that explosiveness to find moments rather than good footwork and crisp pocket boxing. Tafa's flashed power in the UFC. He has 3 knockdowns in 6 UFC fights, and all 3 of his UFC wins have come by way of knockout. So this is a low-level fight. My money is going nowhere near it. I think Tafa's the much more technical and powerful kickboxer here, and I've seen nothing on tape from Lane that suggests he can win this fight by getting takedowns and landing ground and pound on Tafa. If he does that, that would be surprising to me, but it wouldn't be surprising that somebody did that to Tafa because I don't think Tafa's much of a wrestler. I don't think he has much of a ground game, but also he's built like a fire hydrant, so he's going to be very difficult to take down anyway. So if we haven't seen Lane really go to the wrestling over and over and over again in the regional scene, there's no reason to suggest that he's going to go out there and just grapple fuck Justin Tafa here, who's never been taken down in 6 UFC fights, but for some reason his opponents are happy to just stand with him, or they've only attempted 2 takedowns against Tafa. So I feel this fight stays on the feet at distance striking range, where I have to favor the higher level of experience of Tafa and pick him to win by first round knockout. But I am not laying minus 180 on Justin Tafa against a more athletic, explosive guy like Lane. But I think that Tafa's better here, and I think he wins. And I think he makes it look fairly easy. I'm not impressed with what I've seen from Austin Lane thus far. So it's a low-level fight, but I'm going to go with the experience and the better boxing here of Justin Tafa. And I'm going to pick him to win by first round knockout. God damn it, you guys. I don't know if I scratched my cornea or what, but my eye has just been killing me for the entire show. And I can't get anything out of it. So I'm just going to have to power through it for the last couple of fights here. So let's get through it. Okay. Next fight is going to be Amanda Ribas at minus 200 going up against Macy Barber at plus 170, and the fight doesn't go to decision. Is at plus 155 for this fight. All right. So Amanda Ribas, let's talk about her first. She's going to have a 1-inch reach advantage in this spot. She's shown excellent minute-winning skills wherever the fight goes. She's got a 2.87 distance striking differential, a positive 3.39 distance strike attempt differential, and 71.5% distance striking defense, as we can see here. She outworks her opponents, she pressures, she throws a ton of volume, and she stays defensively responsible. Her herky-jerky style with lots of movement and lots of offensive volume works really well for her. Amanda also wins minutes with her grappling. She's got 13 UFC takedowns, and she's only allowed 2. She outcontrols her opponents 35.8% to 7.1%, winning over 83% of the control time positions that she's been in. And she's a judo and a Brazilian jiu-jitsu black belt, so she's definitely a very accomplished grappler. And the fact that she's getting her takedowns at a well above average rate of 52%, and that she's stopping takedowns at a well above average rate of 88.24%. She's definitely getting to the ground on her terms, winning 83.4% of the control time positions, spending almost 43% of her total UFC cage time in those control time positions, almost 36% control time for. So Amanda Ribas definitely knows how to win minutes with her grappling. And she's faced the better brand of competition at the UFC level in comparison to Macy, according to my metric. The overall win-loss ratio is better. It's 1.39 for Ribas compared to 1.04 for Macy Barber, as is the ratio in their wins, which is 1.14 for Ribas and 1.03 for Barber. So it's a little bit better for Amanda Ribas in the wins and overall in terms of the level of competition that she's fought. Now, Macy Barber is almost 5 years younger than Amanda. She's going to be 2 inches taller, and she's a switch stance fighter to Amanda's orthodox. Macy's been busier as a pro fighter, fighting over twice a year in comparison to Amanda, who fights about 1.5 times a year. Macy has over 30 more minutes of pro cage time. She's got 1 more fight at the UFC level and almost 20 more minutes in the octagon. Macy throws with power on the feet. She has a positive 0.25 distance striking differential, but when she throws, she's trying to end the fight. And that aggressiveness looks good in the eyes of the judges, as Macy has won 2 fights by decision that she had absolutely no business winning. She was outworked and outlanded in both the Maverick and the Lee fights, but she was handed both decisions, and it was probably because of how aggressive she was. So this is going to be the volume and the pace of Ribas versus the power punching and the really heavy clinch game of Macy Barber here. I definitely feel like Ribas will be the better wrestler and the better submission grappler in this spot. Macy will be stronger in the clinch and will probably land the bigger, more eye-catching shots. I worry about Amanda's chin. She's been knocked out twice, by Polyana Viana on the regional scene and by Marina Rodrigues here in the UFC. And Barber swings for the fences, and she's very strong in the clinch, and she can win minutes there as well. I think this line is too wide for Ribas. She has more ways to win this fight, in my opinion, but I worry about Barber's power. I worry about Ribas's durability. And if Barber tries to win minutes in the clinch, she could also find ways to bank a round or two against Ribas, who's a great minute winner with her wrestling, grappling, back takes, and the volume that she throws on the feet. I could see this going a few different ways, but if Barber doesn't respect Ribas's power, she might just walk her down and beat the shit out of her in the clinch for most of the fight. The pick is Ribas by decision, but I definitely think there's a lot of value this week on the Macy Barber money line and potentially the Macy Barber KO prop at plus 400 or better. Ribas, we can see here, 3 professional losses in her career, and 2 of them are by knockout. And we do see that Macy Barber in her 12 pro wins has 5 wins by knockout, and 3 of her 7 UFC wins are by knockout. And she's never been finished. So I think Macy by knockout's a path. I think Macy by decision is a path as well. But if Macy wins minutes in the clinch here, I think this is going to look a lot more like minus 110 a piece rather than minus 200 for Ribas and plus 170 for Barber. So yeah, I'm gonna pick Amanda Ribas to win this fight by decision. And I also think that a Macy Barber decision, or finish only prop is a great look this week. There it is. Because Ribas is not very durable, and Macy Barber's definitely got that dog in her. So plus 110 for Macy and minus 140 for Ribas doesn't make much sense. I feel like it should be minus 150, minus 175 for a Macy Barber finish only prop. So yeah, man, that's a good one there. I think that's a solid bet. I would consider making that bet, and that might be a track bet for me. All right. Let's see what you guys are saying in the chat before we get to the main event of the evening. Any thoughts on Tatsuro Taira going from minus 375 to minus 250? Yeah, there could be information there, but I think that, like I said, we've got a lot of new players in the pool. Basketball's over. Hockey's over. And those degenerate gamblers don't have anything to gamble on besides MMA and baseball right now. So I think we're going to see some line movement that doesn't necessarily make sense. And if our stylistic reads of the fight play into that line movement, we shouldn't be afraid to take the other side of it. One of my best 2 prize pick selections for this week's fights, I haven't had time to even look at it yet, Alex, but if you tune in tomorrow night on Ask Weezy, I will definitely be giving out some prize picks plays tomorrow night. Heba should win, but even when Barber loses, she wins. I know, man. She's up a weight class, though, and seems to have had a better chin at 125. That's very true. She was cutting a ton of weight down at 115. So, yeah, I mean, like the chin, a lot more susceptible when you overcut. But still, a couple of shots that Vivi landed on Amanda had her in trouble as well. So we're going to see how it holds up. Barber fails upwards always. I love her at any plus money. That's for sure, man. You nailed some fights last week. Plus 4,000 parlay. Decisions in the early ones always. Nice, Bob Builder. I'm glad that worked out for you, man. Good job. Matthew Chalk is just Wales taking the line. My guy went up by 3 cents. Macy KO cans only. Yeah, that could be true. Heba's not a great fighter. Neither is Macy, but she is a decent striker at least. Macy plus 3.5 point spread, says the Jewish bettor. Judges love Barber. Yes, they do. I'll take Tatsuro again, says Daz. And Golden Octagon saying, "Oi, it's late, but I'm going to rewind and catch the beginning. Thank you for what you do, Weezy. Maybe we all take a moment of silence for the Emmett funeral this weekend." Well, let's talk about that fight right now because that's the main event of the evening. Ilia Topuria minus 310. Josh Emmett plus 260. Fight doesn't go to decision. Juice to the tits at minus 550. So let's get these stats up on the screen and let's talk about the notes that I have for this fight. Josh Emmett is going to have a 1-inch reach advantage over Ilia. He's more experienced as a professional. He's got 8 more pro fights and over 140 more minutes in the pro cage. Josh also has the UFC experience advantage with 7 more fights and almost 120 more minutes in the octagon. Josh has incredible fight-changing power in his hands. He's landed 11 knockdowns in 12 UFC fights, landing a knockdown on 2.11% of the distance strikes that he's landing. And because of that power, Josh prefers to keep fights standing. He doesn't win minutes with his wrestling, so he's fine staying at distance and trying to land the big shot. 88.77% of Emmett's 154 minutes of octagon time have been spent at distance striking range. So he's done a good job of keeping fights standing. But since he's only seen 12 takedown attempts against in 12 UFC fights, it remains to be seen how Emmett will respond if Ilia really tries to wrestle here. And Josh has excellent control time striking numbers. He's got a positive 4.47 control striking differential, and he's winning almost 75% of the control time positions he's been in. So when his fights do go into those positions, he's very capable there. As we can see, out-controls his opponents 8.36 to 2.87, so he's winning almost 75% of the control time positions. But his fights are only there 11% of the time. 88% of the time they're at distance striking range. And you see him landing 6.94 clinch and ground strikes per minute while absorbing 3.47. So he's very active with his offensive output while he's in the clinch and while he's on the ground. Now, Ilia Topuria is almost 12 years younger than Josh Emmett. He's also listed at 1 inch taller. Ilia is a very opportunistic finisher wherever the fight goes. He's finished 93% of his 13 pro wins inside the distance, 8 by submission and 4 by knockout. He's got highlight reel knockouts over Stephen Goncalves and Brave. He's got a highlight reel knockout here in the UFC over Damon Jackson and another one over Jai Herbert. His grappling is excellent as well, and he's opportunistic with his submission attempts at all times. His distance knockdown percentage at 3.41%, as we can see right here, is actually higher than Emmett's, who has 11 UFC knockdowns in his career. So 3.41% for Topuria against a power stud like Emmett at 2.11 shows why Topuria is such a big favorite here. It's like we know that Emmett can land a big shot in the feet, but when you see Topuria landing those body shots, where he's throwing a hook and then he can rotate his hips and then he rotates them the other way and comes upstairs after he digs to the body. I love Topuria on the feet. I love his pocket boxing. I love the way he digs to the body and mixes up his targets in order to find that highlight reel KO. And at only 26 years old, Topuria promises to just keep getting better. And absolutely, Topuria can win minutes and moments with his grappling. He's getting 2.45 takedowns per 15 minutes. He's attempting 2.45 submissions per 15 minutes, and his takedown defense is 93% on 14 attempts against. He's winning almost 75% of the control time positions that he's been in, and almost 50% of his octagon time has been spent in control time positions. So is Josh Emmett done? Is that what we're all assuming now? I mean, he's 38 years old. He's coming off a second-round submission loss to Yair Rodrigues, who's fighting for the title next. Prior to the Yair fight, Josh was on a 5-fight winning streak. He strung together wins over Michael Johnson, Mirsad Bektic, Shane Burgos, Dan Ige, and Calvin Kattar. He was a plus 160 underdog to Yair Rodrigues. Now he's plus 260 against Ilia Topuria. Stylistically, I think Ilia has more ways to win this fight. He could land a big shot, same as Emmett can, but he also has the ability to wrestle, pile up control time, and look to finish the fight with submissions. He's almost 12 years younger. He needs this win so much more at this point in his career than Josh does. He has massive power in his hands, and he will be the way better minute and moment winner with his grappling. The scale is going to be very important for this fight. We've seen Topuria have trouble making the cut before, and Emmett looked awful during his last weigh-in, so I won't do anything tracked until I see both guys on the scale. I'm picking Topuria to win this fight because he's younger, he has more paths to victory, but at the current price, there isn't much I can really do about it. Emmett at plus 450 by knockout is very interesting to me. I don't think this fight goes the full 5 rounds. And since Emmett has only attempted 1 submission in his entire UFC career, I see KO being the majority of his win condition. And we've never seen Topuria go into the championship rounds before, but we have seen Josh Emmett scheduled for 5 rounds before. He's never went into the championship rounds in the UFC, but he has outside of it. This is definitely a huge step up for Topuria, not just in level of competition, but with it being his first fight in his pro career scheduled for 5 rounds against a more experienced opponent who's fought a much better level of competition and who's been scheduled for 5 rounds 5 different times in his career, 3 of those being in the UFC against names like Yair Rodrigues, Calvin Kattar, Jeremy Stevens. None of those 3 fights for Emmett saw the championship rounds, though, so I do see this fight finishing in the first 3 rounds. The official pick is Topuria by second-round submission, but I'm going to wait till the weigh-ins to make any track bets on this fight. If Josh looks good on the scale and Topuria doesn't, I'll definitely think the Emmett money line and the Emmett by KO and the Emmett inside the distance lines will all be great value. But I am going to pick Ilia Topuria to win the main event of UFC Jacksonville, UFC on ABC 5 by second-round submission. I think that's the biggest skill gap in this fight, is that submission, grappling, and wrestling of Ilia Topuria. The guy's dangerous wherever the fight goes. Both guys are going to be dangerous at distance striking range, but when this fight does get to the ground, if Ilia can get it there, I think he's going to be much more dangerous than Josh Emmett. So that's the last pick. I appreciate all of you guys in there. Still 66 of you hanging out live with me here. Make sure to hit that thumbs up. Make sure to hit that subscribe if you haven't already. Please consider joining the Patreon and leave me a comment down below. So let's get into the tracked bets so far on this card. So I only have one money line bet thus far. It is the Trevor Peak money line at minus 110 for 1.1 units. Like I said, he's bigger. He's off a full training camp. He's undefeated as a professional. He's got serious power. He's going to be the bigger dude. And Mariscal's taking the fight on short notice. Mariscal's been knocked out in 3 of his 6 losses. And Trevor Peak's durability right now is something that makes it difficult for anybody to beat this guy because he's never going to fuck off. He's never going to stop fighting. This guy's got no quit in him. And I'm not saying Mariscal does, but I just think that Peek's going to be the guy hitting much harder here. And taking a fight on short notice against a guy like that, who's shown really good conditioning in the past as well, is a nightmare matchup. So I like Trevor Peek there. I talked to you about the under 1.5 rounds in the Allen Silva fight at plus 126. I got that for 1 unit. I've got the Zhumagulov Van under 2.5 rounds at plus 160. Josh Van making his debut, could be an adrenaline dump there. He's never seen the third round in his pro career. And Zhalgas Zhumagulov has got a lot of knockouts in his career and can potentially even get a submission on the ground, where we've seen Van be dominated before by good wrestlers and grapplers. And then the fight doesn't go to decision. I got a plus 115 on Bet Online. It's available there at plus 125 now for Neil Magny versus Phil Rowe. I think Phil Rowe's got a lot of finishing equity, and I think Neil Magny could break Rowe late. So plus money for the fight doesn't go to decision, I think is a very good look there as well. Got 1 unit on that at plus 115. And you know what that means, ladies and gentlemen. One order of business left in the show, and that is Uncle Weezy's ass shaving of the week. Put in the chat who you think it should be this week. We've got TBB saying y'all disrespecting Emmett too much here. Unc, how rounds 2 starts, yes, for both females fight as parlay legs. So Ricci Robertson, yeah, I like that one to start round 2. Yeah, I like that. I like that one. I think that one cashes, I may. Let's see, where were we? Be careful on Ilya, says TBB. All fun and games until the man gasses in the second. It could happen, do we guys? Why we got to watch the weigh-ins. Power is the last thing to go. Jai Herbert had Topuria on skates. I remember that. Questionable gas tank, says TBB. Josh round 1 and 2 KO. TBB saying, oh, but Emmett's 38. Watch the tape. You don't fight like a 38-year-old, and Ilya ain't no Yair. Yeah, it's a completely different style of striking that Josh is going to be dealing with here. I got fight starts round 2, minus 150, 2 units, says Sicky. Ilya's a future champion, but the price isn't viable. I agree that the price is very wide. Ilya is sleeping on Emmett, believes he has no power, constantly getting touched up by straight rights and left hooks. I love Ilya, but Emmett's team wanted this one. Cardio all Emmett. Ilya needs to open this fight with a huge calf kick and immediately get to grappling for y'all Topuria's money lines. Yeah, he does need to grapple. I lean Topuria because he uses combinations instead of Emmett's one punch, mostly a time style. And if he thinks exchanging in the pocket with Emmett, which is more or less what he said, it's going to be a problemo. And I agree with that, dude. You should not stand in the pocket with Josh Emmett. He's a great counterpuncher. He finds the chin, 11 UFC knockdowns. Ige ain't KO him. I doubt Ilya does. Ilya is the grapple, and Emmett's takedown defense is deceptively good. Don't sleep on Emmett. He's got cardio upside and the power advantage. We haven't seen Topuria go 3 rounds. How is he going to look over 5? Agreed. He's never even been scheduled for 5. Striking defense all but went out the window after the second in Topuria versus Mitchell versus Herbert. Emmett can go 5, no problem. Ilya might need a finish within 3 to justify this price. Didn't he go 5 rounds with Cater? I don't think he did, right? Oh, wait, yeah, Emmett did go 5 rounds with Cater. I forgot about that. Yeah, he did go 5 rounds with Cater, for sure. I don't know why I thought, like, it's scheduled for 5, yeah, and it went to split decision. So, yeah, Rodrigues, Cater, and Stevens fights all scheduled for 5. 2 of them finished inside the distance. They were losses, and the other one went to decision. Yes. Tread lightly, says Daz. Don't sleep on Emmett. He has a very, very live underdog. I agree, man. Let's see. Ass shaving time, says Alex Martinez. I made it, says Adam Rush. Welcome, man. Ilya for sure, Unk, says Antonio. I would shave Reebok's ass with my tongue, says Dejan. Hebas says Chalk. Barbara has all the tools. If she can put it together, it's going to be a long night for Hebas and plus money value, says Magic Marlin. Thanks for the show. Best of luck, everyone. So, yeah, the ass shaving of the week this week is going to be somebody that has carried the flag before and carried it successfully. I'm going with Trevor Peek to shave the ass of Chepe Mariscal. I don't like the fact that it's short notice for Chepe. I don't like the fact that Chepe's been knocked out 3 different times. I think Trevor Peek's going to be the more durable guy. I know that he's going to be the much bigger guy. And I don't think that Chepe's wrestling and grappling is going to be a big enough factor in this fight to keep it off the feet where Trevor's going to be landing the bigger shots. So I'm going with Trevor Peek to hopefully be the first guy to ever shave ass for your Uncle Weezy, not once, but twice. Trevor Peek, if there's anybody that should be like on the Uncle Weezy's ass shaving of the week flag, it's that face, because this man loves to fight. He refuses to give up. He's got that dog in him, and he is the type of guy, 100% finish rate by knockout, the kind of guy that you can depend on to finish and finish violently. We've seen that happen to Chepe 3 separate times, and I think it's going to be the 4th here on Saturday. Trevor Peek to shave the ass of Chepe Mariscal, and it's a pick'em. So I'm not even giving you anything juiced here. I'm confident about this. I've already bet the money line on it, and I'll be looking at some same-game parlays and some knockout props as well to maybe add to the position on this fight. Thank all of you guys for hanging out. Please consider joining the Patreon. Hit that thumbs up. Hit that subscribe. Come here tomorrow night, 10 o'clock Central Time. We're going to do Ask Weezy. I'm going to bust out all these stats for you guys. Bust out the prop template. We're going to take a look at all the prize picks plays, come up with a couple of official plays there, and figure out ways to stack cashed tickets like flapjacks for UFC Jacksonville. God bless each and every one of you guys. I'll be live tomorrow at 6 o'clock on Pub Sports Radio for the DFS show with DFS by the Numbers, Gordo Gambles, and Monk Maddox. And right back here, 10 o'clock, Uncle Weezy's YouTube channel for Ask Weezy. See you guys tomorrow, and let's stack cash tickets like flapjacks for UFC Jacksonville. Thank you so much for tuning in, everybody, and we'll see you tomorrow.